look at the statistics that's coming out from different countries and also the real feel of businesses either closing down or experiencing cash flow issues, then I think we would understand that this is not just a business as usual or time where we suffered just 2 quarters of recession or 2 quarters of downturn and calling this a recession. I think we are in extraordinary times. It's not a time where I foresee that the economy is going to recover very quickly. When I say quickly, I mean within 1, 2, or even 3 quarters. I personally have a feel that it might take a little bit longer. And I say this from 3 perspectives. The first is, of course, if you remember during the budget announcement itself, Tharman, the Minister for Finance, made a few observations. And I think there are some statistics here which tells us a very clear picture of where the global economy is going. And let me just rattle them off very quickly. US, 4th quarter, last year, 4th quarter, GDP growth fell by about 5%. Global manufacturing in Q4 also fell by about 20%. In the case of Taiwan, it's 42%. And in the case of Singapore, in the last quarter, it actually fell by about 21%, whereas Korea's latest export data showed a decline of about 30%. And if we see things in context, Singapore's GDP versus our total trade volume is approximately 1/3. So when the world shrinks, some jobs will be lost. I think that's inevitable. So that, I think, is the prognosis for at least now and going forward. The second basis of my observation is this, that I was in Davos for the annual World Economic Conference, World Economic Forum. And for those who understand what the World Economic Forum is, it is really an annual meeting of some of the crème de la crème from all over the world. So we had global leaders, some 2,500 of them, ranging from China's Wen Jiabao to Russia's Putin to Britain's Gordon Brown and Germany's Merkel, and so on and so forth. Huge number of them. And then from the corporate sector itself, we had people like Richard Branson, people like Bill Gates, and so on. So I list these names to say that these are really the crème de la crème. Having been a frequent World Economic Forum member and visitor, I noticed that much of the things that are being said during the forum, when you're in it and feeling it, gets translated downstream to the rest of the world in about 6 to 9 months' time. And when I was there, it was really interesting for me to see that although the topic of discussion was to design a post-crisis world, the fact is no one even had a clue as to how long and deep the recession or depression could be and how to get out of it, let alone designing a post-crisis world. And some of them were even turning to academics, people from Harvard Business Schools and so on, professors, top professors, for answers. And some of these top professors confessed to me that they were in despair when they saw their own students being handcuffed out of Wall Street, and they were wondering what they have been teaching all these years. So they had no clue too. So I think there is a certain feeling amongst both the business, the corporate, even the political, and of course the academic community, that some things have to change, but exactly what it is and how to get to that point is still a journey to be discovered. So I think, just on these 2 footing alone, what it means to me is that it's going to take some time.
For this stock market point of view, there's inherently always this relationship between the stock market and the real economy. And uncannily, most of the time, the stock market does lead the real economy by 6 to 9 months as a general rule. And somehow this always proved to be very true in past cycles. So from that angle, yes, the confidence in the market is not great. Not just the prices has come down, share prices, but also the volume of trading has come down a lot, and the number of players, people dealing in the market, are also have reduced a lot. So if you use that as an indicator, then the outlook for the next 6 months or even 9 months of the Singapore economy doesn't look optimistic.
I guess it's interesting just for a moment just to reflect, I think, about 2008 as it relates to employment trends. And the best way sort of I can describe it is 2008 was very much a year of two different stories. Despite Singapore being in a technical recession for 2, potentially 3 quarters of last year, the demand from a corporate perspective for talent in finance and accounting remained very, very strong, pretty much up until October last year. So we've really only seen a significant, I guess, pullback in hiring probably in the last 3 months of last year and certainly into the first 2 months of this year. I'd echo all the points my fellow panellists have made, though, that I think there's still huge amounts of, I guess, uncertainty. No one quite knows what the impact's going to be as it relates to hiring trends in Singapore. My guess is we'll probably have a much better footing over the next 6 months or so. However, one thing I think that we have seen, I guess, comparing at Robert Half the conditions of our business here in Singapore versus my colleagues in North America and Europe and London specifically, we just haven't yet seen the volume of retrenchments in Singapore, I guess to a certain extent as expected. And Singapore is not a zero hiring environment at the moment, far from it. I think organisations are still looking to bring in talent. But I guess the outlook still remains pretty uncertain for a number of different ways. But I think that the other point I'd add is when we talk about hiring outlook, everyone always talks about companies and hiring strategies of organisations. But I think what's also changed is the outlook of the job seeker has changed significantly. I think job seekers now are becoming a lot more cautious in their approach. They're doing a lot more due diligence about what companies they're going to work for. And I guess coupled with that, they're really evaluating the long-term or the scalability aspect of the jobs they're going in to do. So caution on one part from the employer, but also caution on the job seeker part, which often is forgotten about when people talk about outlooks. But I concur. I think the outlook for this year is going to be a long and arduous year for companies and job seekers alike, but without doubt.